In 1918, Harry Houdini made a 5-ton elephant disappear. So when the U.S. military wants to make a 26-acre aircraft plant become invisible, who better to turn to than a magician?
When the Japanese bombed the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor, the United States immediately declares war against Japan.
But the United States is not particularly well prepared for a war with Japan, and in February of 1942, about 2 months after the Pearl Harbor attack, a Japanese submarine surfaces off the coast of California and shells an oil field. And this really ramps up American fears of the possibility of a Japanese attack on the West Coast.
What the U.S. is really concerned with is the vulnerability of our aircraft and shipbuilding plants on the West Coast. If the Japanese bombers were to strike there, they could destroy this nascent industry and just flatten it before it ever gets off the ground.
An attack on these factories could totally cripple America's war effort.
One location in particular keeps U.S. generals awake at night: Boeing's vast Plant 2 aircraft factory.
Boeing's Plant 2 is a state-of-the-art million-square-foot aircraft facility in Seattle, Washington. It employs over 30,000 workers who churn out over 300 B-17 bombers a month.
To protect Plant 2, the U.S. military turns to engineer Colonel John Omer, Jr.
He's the perfect guy for this job. Number one, he's an expert in camouflage. And number two, as a hobby, he is a magician. So who better to make an entire factory disappear?
If Omer can make Plant 2 vanish, it will be the greatest magic trick of his life. But hiding a sprawling mega factory will take far more than a few rolls of camo netting. Omer must think bigger.
Omer decides to build an entire fake town on the roof of the factory, a whole 3D model neighborhood perched right on top of Plant 2.
Omer wants to make the entire Boeing production plant disappear when viewed from above.
To any Japanese pilot, this giant aircraft facility will look like just another residential suburb.
Omer's plan gets approved. But given the possibility of a Japanese attack, there's no time to lose.
The film business is filled with set designers, stagehands, carpenters, and decorators who have made their entire careers building fake worlds on tight schedules. Omer realizes that they're the perfect collaborators.
Omer recruits John Stuart Detley, an Oscar-nominated art director in Hollywood who's also married to the star Veronica Lake, and puts him in charge of the project up in Seattle.
Together, they assemble a Hollywood dream team of 13 architects, 8 commercial artists, 7 landscape architects, 5 engineers, and 1 soil management expert. Nothing is overlooked.
They get to work on construction. First, they stretch 26 acres of netting across the roof of the plant, 50 feet off the ground, creating an elevated blank canvas. On top of this, they begin to construct their fake town.
Next, the team has a brainwave. From the air, it's impossible to tell how tall a building is, and since they're running a race against time, they decide to cut some corners. They can build them a third of the height using plywood and canvas.
Soon, a strange miniature town appears. 53 houses, a dozen garages, greenhouses, a service station, even a corner store. Then, it's brought to life.
Detley and his people put in fake trees made out of fiberglass, and for the foliage on the trees, they use chicken feathers painted in appropriate greens.
Now, all this Hollywood production needs to make it sing is a cast.
Boeing employees are encouraged to spend their breaks on the rooftop, moving cars, straightening laundry, or just lounging on fake porches. The total cost of the subterfuge is $3 million. Now, at the time, that's 10 times the price of making a major Hollywood movie.
By spring 1943, it's finished. Now Omar's grand illusion needs to be put to the test by top brass back in Washington.
They send cameras up in open cockpit planes. They look down, capture images, and what they find is startling. The town works. This giant factory with thousands of workers has completely disappeared.
It's only as the Americans are closing in on the Japanese homeland in late July of 1945 that they feel confident enough to tell the public.
On July 23rd, 3 weeks before VJ Day, the Seattle Daily Times unveils the fake town to their astonished readers, dubbing it the Boeing Wonderland. Hiding an aircraft factory, that's ingenious. But up next, the CIA has to disguise an entire fleet of U.S. airplanes, taking the art of subterfuge to whole new heights.
In the early 1950s, the French military is fighting communist rebels for control of their greatest Southeast Asian colony, Indochina. But it's a battle that they're losing.
By 1954, much of the French army, just over 10,000 troops, are holed up in this mountainous valley named Dien Bien Phu, surrounded by enemy troops.
The French don't have the air power to actually resupply their troops.
Outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options, the French make a desperate appeal for aid to the Americans.
President Eisenhower sees the French as a major ally in fighting communist expansion across the globe.
The president realizes, though, that the American public has no appetite for another ground war.
We'd recently had World War II and the Korean War, and he doesn't want to write the French a blank check. So Eisenhower's more interested in covert assistance to the French than in sending the Marines.
To keep the U.S. support under wraps, he's going to need a major smokescreen.
The answer could be an extraordinary air service with a very ordinary name: Civil Air Transport, or CAT for short.
CAT was formed in 1946 by combat veteran pilots flying supplies to anti-communist forces fighting in the Chinese Civil War. Weapons, people, livestock. No cargo is too wild, and no route is too hazardous for CAT's pilots.
Their gung-ho reputation catches the attention of the CIA, who start using CAT to help supply their overseas operations.
Soon, CAT is flying hundreds of covert missions for the U.S., and by 1950, the CIA have bought the entire airline using a shell company called the Airedale Corporation.
And CAT has the perfect disguise. They become an actual legitimate business, flying regular passengers all around Asia.
In fact, their work ends up making them the second largest air transport company in the world.
That makes using CAT a perfect way to secretly get supplies to French troops. But pulling that off requires a whole new level of deception.
The U.S. government wants to be 100% sure that these airdrops are never traced back to them. So they begin working with the CAT pilots to make sure that this entire operation looks like a French enterprise.
Overnight, a fleet of CAT's finest planes and pilots get a French makeover.
All of the planes are repainted in French colors to make them appear to be regular French military flights.
Some of their air crews even use French language commands over the radio. In March 1954, the supply drops begin. Disguised as French airmen, CAT pilots risk it all, flying ammo and equipment through hostile skies.
These are incredibly dangerous missions. 2 pilots died. Among those who survived, they say that the anti-aircraft fire they receive is as intense as the worst they faced during World War II.
For 2 months, CAT pilots run a deadly gauntlet, flying almost 700 missions to supply besieged French troops.
Despite Eisenhower's top-secret aid mission, the French forces are defeated in May 1954. Even so, CAT's adventures in the region are far from over.
In the late 1950s, CAT is rebranded as Air America, And as the Vietnam War heats up, it flies thousands of covert missions in Southeast Asia. Until 1975, when the conflict ends and its doors are closed for good.